They first heard it as a knock, not at the door, but from deep inside the walls. In the early 1800s, on a sprawling farm in Tennessee, John Bell and his family lived a quiet, frontier life. Their log house was new, built with sturdy timber from the surrounding woods. At night, the forest came alive with sounds, so when the first strange noises began, John Bell assumed it was rats. What else could it be? The house was still settling, and animals were always trying to find a way in from the cold. But this was different. This wasn't the frantic scurrying of a rodent. This was a pattern. The knock returned the next evening, and the one after that. It was louder this time, more deliberate. 3 firm raps, clear as day, as if a person stood just inches away on the other side of the wall. Thump, thump, thump. Confused and a little annoyed, Bell grabbed his tools. He wasn't going to let some animal drive his family crazy. He found the spot where the sound was loudest and pried the wooden paneling open. He expected to find a nest, maybe a hole where a raccoon had gotten in. But there was nothing. No animal, no nest, no damage at all. Just a rush of cold, still air spilling out like a held breath, finally released. He sealed the wall back up, baffled, but hoped that was the end of it. It was only the beginning. The knocks began to evolve. Soon, they were joined by a scratching sound, like long nails dragging slowly down the inside of the walls. Then came a heavy, dragging noise from the floorboards, as if something massive was being pulled across the room, just below them. The family's nights were no longer peaceful. The children, especially his youngest daughter Betsy, would wake up screaming. They claimed something was pulling their hair in the dark, yanking their blankets off the bed. In the morning, their parents would find strange bruises blooming on their arms and legs, some disturbingly shaped like handprints, left by fingers no one could see. The family was terrified. This was no animal. This was something else entirely, something that wanted to hurt them. And then, it spoke. It started as a faint whisper, a barely audible murmur that seemed to come from all corners of the room at once. The family would freeze, trying to make out the words. Over the weeks, the whisper grew stronger, clearer, until it took on the form of a woman's voice. It was sharp, intelligent, and dripping with mockery. And the most terrifying part, it knew their names. It would call out to John, his wife Lucy, and each of their children. But it didn't stop there. It knew their secrets. It would taunt them with private conversations they'd had, with worries they'd never spoken aloud, with sins they thought were long buried. When the family gathered to pray for deliverance, the voice would laugh, reciting Bible verses backward in a mocking chant. News of the haunting spread through the community. Neighbors, friends, and even curious strangers started visiting the Bell farm to witness the phenomenon for themselves. They hoped to debunk it, to find a rational explanation. But the entity, which came to be known as the Bell Witch, seemed to relish the attention. It would often greet visitors by name before they even had a chance to introduce themselves. It recounted their private conversations held miles away, revealing secrets that left them pale and shaken. It predicted future events, sometimes with chilling accuracy. One man, a self-proclaimed skeptic, directly challenged the spirit, demanding it show itself. The voice replied with a cold, ancient authority that silenced the room. "I was here long before you," it said, "and I will be here long after you are gone." The entity never revealed its physical form. It didn't need to. Its power was in the unseen, in the psychological torment it inflicted. It proved its presence, not with sight, but with pain and with knowledge that no mortal should possess. Of all the family members, the entity seemed to direct its most intense hatred toward John Bell. It cursed him endlessly, vowing to see him dead. And soon, John's health began to fail. He started suffering from strange seizures and difficulty swallowing. His face would twitch uncontrollably, and he felt as if his tongue was swelling in his mouth, making it impossible to speak. Doctors were baffled. He wasted away before his family's eyes, confined to his bed, weakened and helpless. The voice celebrated his suffering, growing louder and more triumphant as his condition worsened. One morning, after a particularly violent night of torment, the family found a small, strange vial on his bedside table. It was filled with a dark, murky liquid of unknown origin. As they stood there, wondering where it came from, the voice spoke. its tone filled with pride. "I gave him that," it declared. "It's just the dose he needs." Terrified, the family didn't dare give the strange medicine to John. Instead, they decided to test it. They took the vial out to the barn and gave a single drop to the family cat. Within minutes, the animal went into convulsions and died. There was no doubt in their minds what the liquid was or what the entity intended. John Bell passed away just 2 days later. The official cause of death was a mystery to his doctors, but the family knew the truth. During his funeral, as shovels of dirt hit the wooden coffin, the mourners were horrified to hear a voice rise up from the surrounding woods. It was the Bell Witch, singing hymns over the grave loud, off-key, and disturbingly joyful. Its mission was complete. After John Bell's death, the intense activity at the farm began to slow down. The constant torment, the physical assaults, the loud conversations, they all faded, but the presence never truly left. It wasn't gone, it just seemed to be waiting. The family eventually moved away, unable to bear the memories held within those walls. The house was abandoned, left to decay in the Tennessee wilderness. Yet, the stories continued. For years, decades, even a century later, people who dared to visit the site of the old Bell farm reported strange occurrences. They would hear faint whispers on the wind and feel an unseen presence watching them from the trees. And sometimes, they would hear a familiar sound coming from the ruins of the house. 3 distinct knocks. Always 3. Local legend says the entity is still there, tied to the land. Some brave or foolish souls have tried to communicate with it. They stand before the empty plot of land where the house once stood and knock on the air, calling out into the silence. Most of the time, there is no response. But every now and then, the legend goes, something answers back. As they stand there in the quiet dread, they hear it. A reply, coming from the empty space in front of them. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. And those who hear it never stay long, because they understand that they have just gotten the attention of something ancient and malevolent, and they know, with absolute certainty, that they are no longer alone. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy stories about the strange and unexplained, be sure to follow our channel for more.